Welcome to Long Lost Friends. I'm Elizabeth Eve King.
And I'm Andrea Goyan. Elizabeth and I used to be in an improv comedy group together back when we were 19, and then we lost touch.
A few years ago, we found each other and discovered we're both painters,
Performers,
animal lovers,
and Pilates teachers.
and naturalists.
And Elizabeth, I'm not a naturalist. I love nature. Does that
counts? That counts. The point is, we're
long lost friends.
And
we're both award-winning fiction writers.
After one of my stories appeared in MetaStellar, we started this show.
MetaStellar, for those of you who don't know, is an online magazine, and we publish original science fiction, horror, and fantasy. There's a link below, you can check it out. So today we are so excited to have Shelby Van Pelt joining us. Shelby's debut novel, Remarkably Bright Creatures, was released on May 3rd, 2022, and is now available from Echo HarperCollins. Chosen by independent booksellers as an indie next pick, Remarkably Bright Creatures has also earned a star review from Booklist, a Buzz Books highlight from Publishers Marketplace, and most anticipated nods from Marie Claire, Glamour, Good Housekeeping, Parade, and more. Shelby was recently named as one of 13 authors to watch in 2022 by BookPage. Her short fiction has been published by Trampset, Sudoku, TLDR, and others. So welcome, Shelby. It's so great to have you here.
Welcome.
I'm so thrilled to be here.
You show us the cats?
My cat
Did your cat disappear?
He ran away.
Oh,
He might come back now that I've interrupted his nap. He'll probably come back to kind of glare at me. So we'll see.
Yeah. So
that's
once
good.
you ignore him, he'll come back. He's really cute, though. We got to see him. What's his name?
His name is Luda Kitty.
Beautiful.
Very cute. So we were so excited to get to be with you today and to talk about your novel, which I've had a chance to read and loved. It's so much fun. For our viewers, can you tell us a little bit about what makes it an unusual book from most sort of standard books?
Well, as you learn from the very first page, it is narrated by a giant Pacific octopus who is living in an aquarium in a fictional town in Washington State. And the story really follows his connection with this kind of older woman who's working at the aquarium. She mops the floors and cleans up there in the evening when no one else is around. And they form a connection and solve some mysteries and work through some grief and really just kind of learn how to become both a better octopus and a better person at the end of it. So it was a lot of fun to write from the point of view of an octopus. It was really a fantastic writing experience for me.
Now, I noticed you said you decided to finish the novel during the pandemic. So when did you start writing this?
I actually started writing these sort of like vignettes or character sketches from the octopus's point of view. It was quite a few years ago. I was taking a writing class, the first ever writing class. I'd never written any kind of fiction before. And I decided I'm going to take this continuing education, how to write fiction type of thing. And one of the in-class prompts was to write from an unusual point of view. This was just like on a notebook paper. And I had seen this video from the Seattle Aquarium recently at the time. And it was this octopus was trying to escape. It was literally like the middle of the day. And this giant Pacific octopus is like trying to go up over the edge of this enclosure quite determinedly. I mean, people are pushing him back and he still is trying to make a break for it. And so when I got this little, writing sketch assignment to write from an unusual point of view, I was just like, oh, well, there's a character right there in that octopus, and just how frustrated and how kind of annoyed at being captive when I'm such an intelligent animal, how dare they try to confine me in this glass box. And that's really how the first chapter of this book was born. Following that, I kind of picked it up, put it down a lot over the years. I had kids, kind of worked other jobs, got busy, and kind of around the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, a writing partner and I were going to do it together. We're going to sit down and finish these books, actually write the book instead of just talking about writing the book, or instead of writing the first 2 chapters over and over again, like I had been doing for so many years. And so we did. And then, COVID hit, and it was like, well, I guess we're still doing this. Let's just do it and finish. And it was just, man, a weird year, the COVID year.
It was.
So did you do a lot of research on Octopus then?
Yeah, I had done a lot of, when I was kind of tinkering with it over the years, I had done a lot of Octopus sort of observation, just we lived in Atlanta for many years before we moved to the Chicago suburbs where we live now. And I would go to the Georgia Aquarium and just hang out with the octopus. So I did a lot of, I don't know if you consider that research. That was sort of the entry level research. And then when I got into actually writing the book, I did have to do a lot of okay, how can I make this feel real and be true to the nature of these animals, while also being obviously a completely made up concept or idea. So yeah, I did a lot of just online research. I mean, it was 2020, so I always had in my mind, maybe I'll go interview people at aquariums, but that didn't pan out. There's a wonderful nonfiction book called Soul of an Octopus by Cy Montgomery, which inspired my writing a lot. It's such a fantastic book.
Great.
She's such an amazing writer. I mean, it's nonfiction, but it's so engaging. It's almost like reading a novel. It's the thread that she weaves together there. So yeah, I learned a lot about octopuses for sure.
Who among us, and I'm going to guess, has been underwater with octopus before? Only Elizabeth, I figured. You just saw one, didn't you, a couple weeks ago?
I think I saw the same octopus one day, and then not the next day, and then the next day, because I'm out at La Jolla and I'm going out snorkeling most every day. And I just came from Bonaire, where I was doing 3 months of coral planting. And so we saw octopus there. Now the octopus there, sometimes were out changing color, but they were very smooth. Whereas the ones here, they get all textured and everything. It's really interesting. And then of course, if you've ever, had the one touch you and stuff, you can just feel them understanding everything about you with a touch. It's amazing to have these brains in their limbs, and it's a really interesting thing.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's one of my favorite kind of things that I learned about octopuses when I was writing the book and researching it, was just their brain is literally spread out through their whole body. Their sense of taste is spread out through their whole body. I mean, imagine if you could eat a chocolate bar with your whole body. It's just such an incredible thing to try to wrap your head around.
Yeah, no, and when they touch you, they know everything, they know how old you are and your hormones and everything. You can just sort of feel that knowledge going back and forth.
Yeah.
Really interesting. So was this up until then, this novel, did you write shorts mostly?
I've written a lot of short fiction over the years. I do a lot of these writing contests, which I find really inspire me, and kind of shake loose the cobwebs sometimes to get these weird prompts and, write in a genre that you don't normally write in. So yeah, I have a lot of short stories kicking around the hard drive here.
How much different was it for you going into writing a longer piece like this? How much more complicated did you find it?
Well, I had no idea how to write a novel when I really kind of started writing it for real. I'm sure you've heard there's plotters and pantsers. Do you plot?
Or as we like to say here, plotters and panthers.
Ooh.
Because
Panthers just
we had a
attacked it.
misunderstanding one time with someone. He thought I was saying Panthers, so that's our new favorite.
Yes.
Sorry to
I think I'm a
interrupt you,
Panther.
Shelby, but we love Panthers.
Yes, I'm definitely a panther. So, there's all the beats that you're supposed to hit. And, I think I did that, but I did it in revision, not in writing. So I had to really like learn that and kind of study it, because it does. I mean, people expect, a certain amount of tension to, ravel and unravel as the story goes. Whereas writing a short, I feel like you're just kind of doing it all in one shot. And when you're writing a longer book, you kind of have the ebbs and flows. And so I did a lot of just, rearranging stuff and, taking this thing that I had written and trying to kind of put it into a novel mold, really. And that was very different than anything I'd ever done before. But interesting and fun. It was a fun learning process.
So how did you come also up with your other main character? Is it Tova? Is that how you say her name?
Yes.
Tova? I mean, how did you decide that it was going to be? You had your octopus. How did you come up with Tova?
Well, Tova is actually kind of based on my grandmother, who passed away in 2015. Very stoic, very sweet, but very like, and she's an old Swedish lady, like very Scandinavian, just sense of kind of being a little bit buttoned up, a little bit guarded. And, my grandfather was 10 years older than my grandmother. And so he passed away quite a bit before she did. And, she would just live in our house by herself and keep busy. She took cleaning jobs just for fun, because she loved to clean, not in an aquarium. It was more like a church basement type of situation.
I need a grandmother like that. I could keep her so busy, she wouldn't have to take extra jobs.
I inherited a lot of traits from my grandmother, but loving cleaning was not one of them. She would iron her pillowcases every Wednesday. This is just what she did. And I think I was just wondered whether she was really happy. Did that really fulfill her like she claimed it did? Everything was always fine. And I wanted to write a character like Tova, who sort of thought she was fine until she started to learn that, she wasn't, and needed to change and grow. And so I put a lot of, my grandmother had a knitting club called the Knitwits, which shows up in the book. I kind of lifted some of that from her life, from the things that I remember really fondly about her.
Well, and it's lovely. I mean, the fact that she's that character who you develop, who then kind of develops this relationship with this octopus, which is so unlikely, right? It's fabulous. Liz, before we sat down together here, we were talking about how it was to try to get your agent, or not actually get your agent, but how it was to try to figure out selling something that's sort of fantasy, because octopuses obviously don't have diaries or journals that they kind of keep. And they may, but we don't know about them.
We haven't found them yet. We're gonna open some clam shell, and we're like, oh my God.
But how it was to try to convince the marketers that this could become combined thing, because it really is general fiction story with an octopus narrator.
Yeah, so there's kind of a story that goes around among my agent and my editors. My agent has an assistant who reads all of her query letters that come in, and then passes the ones that she finds promise in on to the actual agent herself. And she apparently wrote in the margin of my query letter, "This is either brilliant or bananas," and then passed it on. And so, I'm glad they decided it was brilliant and not bananas, but I think everyone recognized from the outset that, like, this is different. We're not really sure what box this fits in. I'm glad that they gave it a chance and decided that it worked. I think having a really good comp helped me a lot there. And the comp was Kevin Wilson's book, Nothing to See Here, which is, it's literary fiction, it's book club fiction about a woman who goes to take care of her former best friend's children as kind of a, a nanny or a babysitter. And the children, when they get upset, catch on fire, like literally. And so it's just this kind of standard storyline, but then with this just outrageous twist of, speculative kind of, something that doesn't happen in real life, obviously. But with enough, like, you think of children catching on fire when they get angry, and it's like, well, yeah, you can see where that comes from. So I used that as a comp, and I think that really helped, the agents and the people that were being pitched to see, like, okay, this is just, there's just one big quirk that we're asking the readers to buy into here. And I think that helped a lot. But there were not a lot of other great comps in that kind of category. So
it does seem, though, I mean, I've been listening to books for the first time this year, and I've been reading a lot that are considered fantasy, but there's so much, they're not typical fantasy, and there's like Plain Bad Heroines and Creatures of Passage, which was just this fabulous book that's a ghost story basically, but it's it's so much more than, it's just it's general fiction in so many ways. But I think we're seeing more and more of that, so your timing's great, more of that kind of infusion of fantastical into everyday life, right?
yeah, definitely. I mean, I've read even a couple books lately that were like women's fiction, but it's like, oh, but there's time travel. Emma Staub's new book that's coming out is I'm totally blanking on the name. I think it's called This Time Tomorrow. But she wakes up and it's like the 90s, and she's back in the 90s. So it's like this time travel nostalgia trip, but from someone who writes like literary fiction and women's fiction. So I think that's, I think we are seeing a lot of that, and it's cool.
I think it's very cool.
Yeah. Have you ever read Ishmael? It's
Yes.
narrated by a gorilla.
I have not. That sounds interesting, though.
Oh, it's a great book. There's 2 or 3 of them. It's almost like philosophy. It kind of reminds me, it's not Huxley, it's Daniel Quinn, his name is, but it really, it's this talk between this guy and this gorilla. It's pretty much a whole book, but it's just great.
That's cool. Yeah.
It's that different perspective once again,
Yeah, it's interesting because you get to offer that really different point of view than a human would have, but infuse it with some human feelings and stuff so that humans relate to it, right? It's really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the draw for me of writing kind of out there points of view, and I think we see this a lot in speculative fiction when people write, an alien race or, creatures that are made up. It really allows us to step outside of our humanness and see humans as, animals or creatures.
And that's the things we are.
And that's really it's really liberating as a writer to be able to, you step back and use that different lens on humans, and have be able to take some of those liberties that you couldn't take if you were writing from a human perspective.
So Shelby, with your sorry, Elizabeth, but with your short fiction, do you write a lot of speculative fiction, or is it still mixed up a lot?
It's a mix. Yeah, I love animal fiction. I have a couple that are from the point of view of a cat. Obviously I'm a cat lover, and those are fun to write because I think cats and octopuses are a little bit similar. Sometimes I will look at my cat and I'm just like, oh, the cat is giving me like an octopus look right now. That just kind of skeptical, like bored. I'm not really interested in you, but I'm really interested in you, kind of look. So yeah, I do a lot of that. I've got a couple of fantasy shorts that are out there. It's a mix.
Yeah, I was reading some of your short fiction, and I like how you mix it. Sometimes it's just, sort of, but there's the one with the cat and the laser light. That was really cute. But I think my favorite of almost anything, though, just because it was the teacher with the eyes in the back of her head. They find out she really has eyes in the back of her head. And that
one was fun to write. I think I wrote it in a workshop, and the facilitator, just the first draft of it anyway, was like, oh, I feel like you're channeling Roald Dahl here. I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's kind of that, a little bit dark, but
Yeah.
like.
So that's really cool. Now, did you, after your short fiction, did you get your agent and stuff after for your novel specifically, or before your novel?
Yeah, so I pitched the novel, is what got me the agent and the book deal. That it's weird. A lot of people put in their cover letters their short fiction credits. I'm not sure how much it actually matters. They see the novel, and I think it's just, this is the product that's being sold. And I don't know that they really go deep into like publication credits, unless it's like, the New Yorker or something. But I love writing short fiction. It's funny, my husband will watch me do these contests and just be like, why are you spending time on this? You should be writing more novels, because that's, the much more lucrative thing to be spending my time on. But short fiction is fun, and I think a lot of my ideas for, like another novel are born out of that process. So it's kind of, I can't help it. I have to.
Do you have your next novel in mind or started?
I do. There will not be an octopus. That's what everyone seems to want to know. It's not a sequel, but it's exploring.
No pun intended. Sorry.
It's another weird book. It's exploring some non-human characters that might have a role. I'll say that much.
Nice, very nice. Well, I have to read a little something, because this one paragraph in your novel, it's crazy. One paragraph that I marked, because it's only 2 lines I'm going to read, but that I just loved. And probably I loved it so much because, well, the description's so beautiful, but it's also sort of weirdly speculative in its own little way. So on my novel on page 189, Cameron, who is one of the characters, Cameron still can't seem to wrap his head around the shape of the sea here. It's like a monster with hundreds of long fingers is gripping the edge of the continent, tendrils of deep blue cutting channels through the dark green countryside in every unexpected way. And having been up to the coast of Oregon, I could just see that. I could just see that the tendrils and the fingers grabbing the continent. The fingers grabbing the continent was just like, one of those moments where I was like, I wish I wrote that. It was beautiful.
I'm kind of impressed that I wrote it, hearing you read it.
I know, even though I read it kind of awkwardly, yes, but like, still, yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
No, and it's so weird. I mean, having grown up in the Pacific Northwest, where you're driving, and it's just like you go over the water, and you're like, okay, now I'm on that side of the water, and then you go over it again, and you're like, well, wait, like how did I get here? How did it get there? It's just so.
So it really does do that, just like little inlets. It's so cool, so cool. So
that is really cool.
Well, should we talk about the best things we learned this week, Elizabeth?
I guess so. We always end with the best things we learned, and I usually start.
Yeah, Elizabeth. No, not usually. Always.
Yeah.
I think she let me start once, but
only because she got in really fast or something. Yeah. So actually, I have some really best things I learned this week. So I have a place in Utah that I am in for most of the year, and a lot of canyons and stuff. And they were trying to do some mining in there's this huge mine proposed. So it's been this fight. And recently, the Salt Lake City Council voted unanimously to ban mining and mineral extraction from all the foothills and all the canyons and all the everything. And so that's a very good thing that I learned this week.
That's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I write I probably shouldn't say this, but I write a lot of letters, not always under my name, just so they have a lot of letters saying, this is horrible, you can't do this, no. And so
that's great.
Yeah,
I'm excited
that
that
that's so beautiful.
So yeah, that was a big like, yay. And as soon as I heard it, of course, I said, well, I know where this is gonna go. Best thing I learned this week.
Yeah.
So it's mine.
Yeah, really nice. I wish I always think back, what is in my own life that's been the best thing? And I almost never come up with anything. Not that I don't have nice things happen, but they're not video worthy.
They're
So
not, yeah, or they're there.
staying with sort of oceany kinds of things, this is a really short one as well. Sometimes ours are much longer, Shelby, but I was reading that Norway's population of walruses has bounced back. That they had, I guess they stopped, they banned hunting. So now the walrus population is regenerating. And as of 2018, I love so many of these studies go back, they're not in the last couple of years. It's like in 2018, they had 5,503 walruses. And I
Yeah.
guess they got almost down to 0 at one point.
Wow.
So yay for walruses.
Yay.
Yeah, it's
I
amazing.
love
When we
walruses.
stop killing stuff, sometimes it just bounces back. It's so weird.
So Shelby, your turn.
Well, I'm going to go with an octopus one, I think, here first. I'd
Okay.
say you've probably spent a lot of time looking at octopus kind of rabbit holes on the internet, like most people have, all the videos that are out there. The coolest thing about having written this book is that people now send them to me. I don't even have to go looking for them. So a cousin sent me a study that showed that octopuses will just punch fish randomly. Like they
get
and there were several video examples of this, embedded within the article, which just shows like, and it's almost, it reminded me of a cat in a way, how, you'll just be walking by and your cat will be like, kind of like a boop. It's like the octopuses are just booping the fish.
That's fun.
I thought was very cool. And I added to my arsenal of octopus facts.
Is that in the wild too, or in tanks
This was in the wild.
Yeah.
But I wish I'd done it before I wrote the book, because I feel like Marcellus could have been doing some booping around the aquarium.
Definitely. Well, thank you.
That one octopus, I just have to, this octopus, have you seen he was in an aquarium, and there were these other fish, they kept missing fish in the aquarium. You saw that story, right? And they had a camera on, and they watched the camera, and they found out that the octopus would open his tank, crawl across the entire space, go into this other aquarium, get fish, put the top back on that fish tank, go into his tank, put the top back on his fish tank, and eat the fish.
Yep, that's so Marcellus the octopus in my book is overweight, and that's why. It's really fun. They're such amazing creatures.
They really are.
Yeah, so thank you so much for talking. This book, it sounds so amazing. As soon as I heard it had a main character octopus, I was just like, oh, that is so great. And of course, we want to thank our director, Maria Korloff. We couldn't do this without you, and our video editor, Sydney Levinson. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. And please like this video and leave comments below, and be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification button so you won't miss any episodes. And if you want to support our publication, help us publish more original content, you can go to our Patreon page and support us there. And all of the monies go for the authors. Everyone else is a volunteer, so you're just helping perpetuate new fiction. Is that the right word? But anyway, all right, so thank you. I know, perpetuate. Thank you so much again. It's been just so much fun talking with you, Shelby. And
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Oh, our pleasure. All right, see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.